It was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. The day I'd marry the woman I loved, surrounded by our closest friends and family. But as I stood at the altar, waiting for her to walk down the aisle, something felt awe. She had been acting strange the past few days, but I brushed it off as pre-wedding nerves. After all, who wouldn't be a little anxious before such a big step? But when the minutes turned into an hour and there was still no sign of her, I began to feel the first pangs of doubt. The guests started to murmur, exchanging confused glances. I tried to stay calm, convincing myself that she was just running late. Maybe she was having a moment to herself before the ceremony began. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. Finally, a member of the wedding party came up to me, their face pale. "We've looked everywhere, but no one can find her." My heart dropped. "What do you mean, no one can find her?" "She's gone." I thought it was a joke at first, a sick prank before the vows were exchanged. But as the hours stretched on and the authorities were called in, I realized this wasn't a joke. My bride was missing. The police started their investigation immediately, but it was like she had evaporated into thin air. There were no signs of forced entry at her hotel room, and all her belongings were still there, untouched. The only clue was a note she had left on the bed. And it wasn't long before I started to uncover the truth. As the police dug deeper, they discovered something chilling. My bride had been planning her disappearance for months. She had been in contact with a man, someone she'd known from before we met, a man who had been stalking her for years and whose obsession with her had escalated after we got engaged. The worst part? She never planned to run away with him. She was trying to escape him, but she couldn't find a way to make him go away. She was terrified. The more I learned, the more I realized how little I actually knew about the woman I was about to marry. She'd been living with constant fear, and I had no idea. She had kept it all from me, convinced I wouldn't understand. Now, every moment feels like a missed opportunity to protect her. I wonder if, by the time I find her, it'll be too late. What could have been the happiest day of our lives turned into a nightmare, and I can't help but blame myself for not seeing the signs sooner. I don't know where she is, but I won't stop searching until I find her. I was beyond excited. Everything had been falling into place for months. Every little detail of my wedding, from the flowers to the dress, was just perfect. My fiancé Jake and I had found a beautiful old house for our ceremony. It had a charm to it that I couldn't resist. I thought it would be the perfect setting for our dream day, tucked away from the chaos of the city. But as soon as we arrived, something felt off. At first, I brushed it aside, thinking I was just stressed. It was a big day after all. But then, the strange things started happening. A whisper in the hallway when no one was around. Cold spots that appeared out of nowhere, no matter how high we turned up the heating. I even caught glimpses of a woman in the corner of my vision, always dressed in a tattered wedding gown. I was starting to wonder if I was just imagining things until it got worse. It was the night before the wedding, when I woke up to the sound of crying. I assumed it was just nerves, but when I went to check on Jake, I found him asleep, undisturbed. The crying seemed to come from downstairs. My heart raced as I stepped out into the hallway, and that's when I saw her again. The woman in the wedding gown. She was standing at the bottom of the stairs, her face hidden in shadow. "Ow?" I asked, my voice trembling. The figure didn't respond. Instead, she began walking toward me, her footsteps eerily silent. I froze, too frightened to move, as she reached out toward me with a cold, lifeless hand. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't. It felt like my throat had been clenched shut. Just then, I heard Jake's voice behind me, calling my name. I snapped out of my trance and turned to see him standing in the doorway. But when I turned back to the stairs, the woman was gone. There was no trace of her, no footsteps, no sign that anyone had been there at all. I didn't sleep at all that night. I couldn't. My mind raced, trying to make sense of what had happened. I started asking around, hoping someone could explain it away. That's when I learned the house had a dark history. Many years ago, a woman had been jilted at the altar in that very home. She had never forgiven the man who left her, and some say she still haunts the place, waiting for another bride to take her place. I didn't want to believe it, but on the morning of my wedding, as I stood in front of the altar, I realized that maybe I wasn't the one the spirit had been after. Maybe it was Jake. Maybe she wanted to see him suffer, just like the man who had wronged her all those years ago. But as I looked into Jake's eyes, I knew I had to go through with it. After all, he was the love of my life. Or at least, I thought he was. As I said my vows, I couldn't shake the feeling that the woman was watching us, waiting. And when the ceremony ended, I swore I saw her standing in the back of the room, staring at me with a gaze full of sorrow and rage. It was then I understood. I wasn't the one she wanted. She wanted me to leave, just like she had been left. I remember the day of my wedding like it was yesterday. The excitement in the air, the love in the room, and the dream I had built with Tom. He was everything I had ever wanted. Charming, caring, and absolutely perfect for me. But looking back now, I see all the signs that I ignored. It started small. At first, it was little things that made me feel uneasy. Tom's concern for my safety, his constant checking in when I was out with friends, the way he would look at other men if they spoke to me for too long. I brushed it all off, thinking it was just the nerves before the big day. But as time passed, those small things began to add up into something darker. I'll never forget the night everything changed. We had just gotten back from our honeymoon, and I thought we were starting our new life together. But something was off. Tom was distant. He would get angry over trivial things, like how I folded his shirts, or when I didn't text him back quickly enough. Then one night, we were at a family gathering, and Tom had a little too much to drink. He started arguing with my cousin, and it escalated quickly. Trying to calm him down, but he wasn't listening. That's when I saw it, the look in his eyes. It wasn't anger. It was something else, something cold and calculating. After the argument, I tried to talk to him, but he brushed me off. When I went to bed that night, I noticed something strange. His phone was left unlocked on the table. I should have just gone to sleep, but something told me to look. What I found shook me to my core. His text messages were filled with disturbing content. Messages from women, dozens of them, about plans to meet up, about stories of women he had taken care of. The more I scrolled, the more I realized the truth. Tom wasn't who he had claimed to be. He wasn't the loving husband I thought I had married. He was someone else entirely. A man who had been hiding something much darker. No. That's when I realized I wasn't just married to a man with a troubled past. I was married to someone capable of far worse. I don't know why I didn't run then. Maybe I was scared. Maybe I couldn't believe it. But I knew I had to be careful. I started gathering evidence. Anything I could find that would expose him. It wasn't easy. He was always watching, always controlling. But I was determined to get out. Then, one night, he disappeared. Just like that. No explanation, no note. I filed a report, but I never heard from him again. The police think he might have run, but I know better. Tom had a past, a deadly one, and I fear I may have been the last one to truly see the monster he was. Now, I live in constant fear that he might come back, that he might find me again. But I'll never forget the way he looked at me that night, like I was nothing more than a piece on his game board. And I don't think I'll ever be free of the ghost of who he truly was.